potential conflicts that I think can be a problem. Um, I went over the instructions, and this week we should start actually designing our um, cards, the game board, and
Hmm.
anything else we uh, plan to have in it. And with Justin being our primary artist, that would be mainly his job. But if he's not available until um, Wednesday's meeting, that gives us 2 days. Unless I'll message him and see if he'll be able to work on some of that stuff
Hmm.
until then. But if not, then that leaves us 2 days of really just doing nothing other than putting whatever we can in the GDD.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, we could focus on like the hardcore design stuff and flesh that out a little bit more, like the rules and mechanics,
yeah,
turn sequences, things like that. So, I mean, we wouldn't be sitting on our hands by any means,
yeah,
but I agree that making sure that the art is getting done is a big deal. Though, I mean, you could say that until we figure out exactly what cards we're doing, what the goals on those cards would be, you know, I don't know how he would make art for something like that without having that information. So, I mean,
yeah. And I think as just a concept designer, maybe just a prototype. I don't know if we'll have, if we're gonna have like a card that's, you know, for collecting wood. We're gonna actually draw a piece of wood on it, or we're just gonna say wood and how many they collect. You know.
I just put wood on the card and then we'll
Yeah.
we'll make it pretty. On I think week 3 is when we go into hardcore building all the components. Because I also read in the instructor's message that we don't necessarily have to have all of the art
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
We just have to have references for each type of element. So, like a resource, like one resource card element that would cover all of them, or one. That's what I read into it. I'm going to go back and reread that just to make sure.
Yeah. I got it open now.
Um,
And if we are gonna do standees, then we have to make something, and like you said, something that's easily obtainable, not just
mhm.
for us, but for him and any other, outside people that are gonna test it. So, one thing I was thinking, if we're gonna have like standee characters, we can have one person or all of us make the characters and then send a file to everyone, so it could just be printed out,
Yeah. Hmm.
something like that.
And there's also, I ran across it the other day, uh, a template for cards.
Okay.
Um, and let me see if I can find it quick. It was one of those things that I was going to talk about later on in the week.
Yeah.
Mostly just because, like, the first couple days, we really need to tighten up our turn phases, our goals for the players, and get that stuff kind of done.
Yeah.
Um, there you go, free templates. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. Yeah, I'll post this message in chat. Did you? Is the recording going? I didn't know. I'd actually
Yeah.
hear it going. Okay,
Yeah, I gotta go.
cool. All right, I'm going to put this in the chat. You guys feel free to look at it whenever. Um, but I think they can, by using those templates, at least for the cards themselves, um, will save a lot of time. Because I think you can, with a template, you can create a sheet of cards that can just be printed off and then cut up to what we need. Goes under decks, maybe. Yeah, here we go.
Oh, look at that. And dials.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's just a
Yeah,
watch?
yeah, that one. Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool.
So these these are things that at least using the templates we can create them, and then eventually what I'd like to do is get a decent prototype uploaded, and then actually have these people make us a hard copy.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I think the goal by the end of the week is to have a prototype copy up for all of us, our own set.
mm-hmm.
At least one play test, so we have an idea on what's going to work and what's not going to work. I was actually planning on having at least one play test before Saturday's meeting done, so Saturday we can discuss any problems we had, but with David and Justin's scheduling,
Mm-hmm.
David's only there Saturday, so unless he had the time throughout the week to set one up, but then if he's missing these meetings, it might be a little confusing to him as to how we set it up also.
Yeah.
So.
And a lot of that too will come through writing, because if we write the game design document correctly, it should be easy enough to give to anybody and they can recreate the game.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be a good idea. All right, so I'm looking through this, and the table of contents we can't do in Google Docs. We'll have to do that in Word.
Oh, they don't have that in Google Docs?
If they do, I don't know how to do it, and I don't know how it translates from Google Docs to Microsoft Word. What I do know is that Microsoft Word and Google share the same hierarchy with headers, so those transfer over.
Yeah.
And the table of contents, if I remember right, is based off of those headers. Whenever you can just kind of autofill it. All right. So, do you want to, I guess, start on page 4? It's our game overview and.
All right. Yeah, I guess we can do that.
Because we really don't have any design history.
No. One thing we are going to also have to work on is our logo.
Yes.
So I'll send out an email to everyone tonight.
Okay.
Ideas and we'll throw them in there. So
I'm going to get rid of this just under the header.
Yeah.
So we don't really need that. I'm out in the living room, so I don't have a place to put my mouse, so I'm having to use the old gamepad.
I also started a flowchart. I got, at the start and the setup, squares in there and the circle.
Where's it at?
It should be. Someone made a file for it.
Oh yeah, that was me.
Oh, that was you? All right.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I just started one up. I saw he mentioned that we should start that. So.
Yeah, I just put them in there because it's easy enough just to copy them from here. Did you guys get your final project back from last class?
The one I thought the one he graded was the final, but it was our individual final, not the group final. So I didn't get that one back, but I got the individual.
We got our group one back finally, and it wasn't bad. We ended up with an 89.
Oh, that's not. No, that's really good.
No, so I wish that there were some of his comments that were the problems that we had with the vague instructions where we weren't sure what we were supposed to do.
Yeah.
But, I'll take it.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I just got mine done. I got C+. 79.
79. Well, hey, that's almost a B, man.
Yeah.
That's pretty much a B. I think 79 should be a B.
Hey, it's passing. That's all I care.
It's passing, yeah. Okay, so in a lot of these too, like where does the game take place, the story, that's kind of Jeffrey's domain. I don't want to.
Yeah, I feel it's going to be hard for everyone to try to do their part in this.
Mm-hmm.
I know Justin's going to be our primary artist, but just so we have something done, I feel like everyone else also, like now, today, and tomorrow, and Wednesday before the meeting, have some kind of art, like an idea of what the board's going to look like and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to, take Justin's job away from him. And same thing with David is if week 3 I think is prototyping and testing. If he's only available Saturday, then we don't know his testing until Saturday. So I feel everyone should do theirs too. But
Mm-hmm.
if we do our testing Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday's meeting, we have all of our testing done, and we discuss it and all that. Then there's really no point. And I mean, we can talk about it more on Saturday, but there's really no point in doing a whole lot of other stuff.
We can run a couple tests and then iterate on them like through the version documentation up here.
Yeah.
And then just do another retest because I mean I'd like to have personally I always like to have at least 10 playtests to get an idea of what's broken and what's not.
Yeah.
I found like whenever I was designing the games in GD1, any less than that, it was like, well, this kind of works. Maybe it was just a fluke this time, and then you 10 more playtests, you're like, okay, no, that wasn't a fluke just for this time.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we could start, since Jeffrey's going to be here tonight, on the game theory portion, like right kind of underneath the game overview.
Yep.
Because our game, as far as symmetry, it's a pretty... Make a little bit of room here. It's pretty asymmetric, really. Because we have that trader mechanic.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is kind of symmetric too. So ours has elements of asymmetry. That's not how you spell that.
I try to make that say asymmetrical.
I was just going to say our game has elements of asymmetry and symmetry. And like I said, we'll go back and
yeah.
I just kind of want to get the basic thoughts out. Symmetric. That the innocent all working common goal using same. Now here's the question that I've been trying to figure out is we have to define how the cure is made.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things we said is where it's going to be similar to Far Cry was the collection of plants needed.
Mm-hmm.
And I made, let's see if I could, there's a document I made in week 1. I should probably put it in all the other weeks, but just pretty much have game notes, any ideas we came up with.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I put in there was the regions we had and what resources would be in there. And I had the regions, we can have a forest, a cave, a river, and a desert. And in the forest, there'll be a plant that you need. Like, we'll have 4 plants that you need to make the cure. And you got to gather, like, plants you gather in the forest. You could say you collect mushrooms in the cave, seaweed in the river, and cactus in the desert. And you need a certain amount of each of those plants to make the cure. Or to, stop the symptoms.
Okay, that's right. I just wanted to make sure that you had to get more than one of something.
Yeah.
Because otherwise the game would be over in like 2 turns.
Yeah. And that was another thing he put in that email he sent us was he doesn't want, and I think that's one thing we're going to discuss is if a player dies early on, can they still be involved in the game in some way? That's one thing he said in here is, treat your players fair. Don't have one player die in the beginning of the game and, they're out for the rest of the game while everyone else is playing for an hour. So that might be something we'll have to look back into.
There was something that Justin mentioned that sounded pretty cool, is if we maybe if you because that's the other thing to figure out if we're going to use health points, if we're going to use something else. But if you got an ending condition in the game while it was still kind of in that finding the cure phase, what if your player just kind of went nuts and there was a different base rule set, like we couldn't have random movement before.
Mm-hmm.
Like you had to pick where your region was, and then you could go and you roll for resources. Well, what if you went crazy instead of killing a player off, you went crazy, and then the die roll determined where you ended up or what region you ended up at.
Yeah, you can do something like that.
So I don't know if it would work, but it would be a way that players could still be in the game.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure we explain why the game is one or another. Same resources. Is
What about here? He says the game is either one or the other. So
that's the thing, because ours has tendencies of both.
yeah.
And there are a lot of games that have asymmetrical and symmetrical components.
Which would we say it's more, symmetrical or asymmetrical?
I would say really it's more symmetrical.
Yeah.
But that's something you'll have to ask him, because games really aren't necessarily one or the other.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, it says a symmetrical game is like chess presents players with the exact same option and setup arrangement. I mean, a game like chess is set up the same way, and they do the same thing over and over. I mean, they'll change what avatar they'll move.
Mm-hmm.
For us, I mean, it's set up. We'll set it up the same way. They'll have a choice in what avatar they want. They'll have a choice in where they want to go.
Mm-hmm. The only thing they really don't have a choice of is whether they're the trader or not.
Yeah. Or how many resources they can gather.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you play a team-based game like Dodgeball.
Yeah.
Dodgeball starts off very symmetric, but can very quickly turn asymmetric when you're on the losing team.
Yeah, you lose one person and it's uneven.
So you may want to email him about that, since you're the point of contact with the instructor, I guess.
Yeah, I'll take a note.
And just use that Dodgeball example. Be like, you can't really be one or the other. Arth hath both. Now, are we going to have every player start off the game with the same amount of resources? Start them off with no resources? Or have some kind of random roll?
I think that's one thing Justin did say, was they start off with like one or two of each resource. That way,
because they had the survival pack. That's right.
Yeah, so that way they're not in there and they're like, well, okay, here we'll draw our crisis card or week one goal, and they have nothing to start off with. So I think having them start off with, maybe one or two two food, one water for each player.
Yeah.
Would work.
Give them that one wood to be able to. What are our four? Are we doing strictly? You said cactus.
Yeah. Back up. I like for the forest. I said we'll have wood, which will be used for fire, and deer, which will be used for food.
Okay.
And then in the cave, we'll have stones, which can be used for fire and weapons. or just weapons,
Mhm.
and mushrooms, which will be used for the cure. And in the river, I said we'll have water for water, fish for food, and seaweed for symptoms. And then in the desert, I just put cactuses for the cure. I didn't know if there was anything else in the desert that maybe we could use. I was thinking if we wanted to say they had to make syringes, you could use sand from the desert to, you know, burn or melt and make glass to make a syringe. But I don't know if that's, stepping out of line with going too close to RPG games or something like that.
Well, we can have RPG elements. I mean,
Yeah.
ours isn't so much an RPG. I mean, we don't level up in our game. We don't um, there we don't have skills that level up. So I think that would be okay.
But do you think having them collect too much stuff would be too much for them, or do you think?
I would rather start off with collecting too much stuff and seeing how long the games go,
True. All
and
right.
because we can always take away a lot easier than figuring out, oh crap, we got to add something into the, you know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. So we could say they can collect sand in the desert.
Each player starts off with a survival pack that contains.
Or should we put a beach instead of a desert?
You could, I would say, if we're going to go with an island, probably the beach
Yeah.
makes sense.
And
Um,
we could say like coconut would be
yeah,
like for a cure or something.
or hydration,
Yeah.
or coconut milk can really help with fatigue too, but it can dehydrate you if you drink too much of it.
Yeah.
Um, so, and having the weapons too. I mean,
Well,
we don't need.
that was that was the other thing we mentioned because we were going to use weapons to fight off animals, but then we decided we weren't going to do animals because then we'd have to add the, attack minus or attack and defense to the game, which is something we wanted to avoid.
Well, yeah, and a way around that could be because they have to have some way to get food and some way to hunt.
Yeah.
So what you could say is, as long as the player has this spear, like you craft a spear and it can be used 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
If player has a spear and encounters an animal, player wins food.
Okay.
If player doesn't have spear and encounters animal, player takes damage.
All right. So player spear wins food. No spear. So I should probably put that. Well, that's just in the notes I made.
Yeah, and that's, I said, as we go through the document, we can kind of tweak that up because a spear could be used for, hunting deer, or it can be used to fish. So I mean, we can use that.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Each player also starts off with a survival pack that contains the same number of food, water. So we want to give them food, water, and wood to start off with,
Um.
so they can make fires to cook the stuff that they have and have water.
Yeah. Yeah. We could do that. I guess they'll have. We could say 1 food or 2 food, 1 water, or vice versa, and 1 wood for fire. And giving them that stuff early on, their first choice would probably be to go to a cave, get stone so they can make weapons, and then from there on out go to. So round 1 is probably kind of set for 1 person to go to the caves to get stones to make weapons, while everyone else can probably go out and do other things.
Mm-hmm. Depending on the goal for that month.
Yeah.
For gathering, the base amount of stuff. And then we also said that each player will also have to maintain their. It's not the right there. their health by collecting and using the... Oops. Yeah, so our game has a lot of symmetrical elements to it.
Yeah.
But again, it's still got that asymmetrical part where the trader's trying to do this by himself, and there may be some instances where players may be doing because if we're doing where everybody can find the cure,
Yeah.
what's to stop somebody from like, well, if I take this guy off, I'll have more of these resources that I can gather. So that might be another tactic that we see kind of emerge in playtests, which is kind of the thing, whether or not we want to figure out. Because I would say a way to fix that is to have, since we have skills and classes, or we've talked about them, we haven't really expanded on it.
Yeah.
That each player has to use something in order to make the cure.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that kind of goes more towards the, having one cure for all of them. I don't know which way we want to go on that, because either way can be fun. We'll have to design our goals around that decision.
I think one thing we did say every person would have to make their own cure. So they would have to go out. Well, no. Was it everyone makes their own, or we're going to say they have to go out and collect this many resources to make a cure for everyone? So I think, like, say it took 10 plants or 10 mushrooms to make one cure. And at the end of the year, they only had, there's 4 players, say they need 40 mushrooms, but say they had everything else and they only had 39 mushrooms. So only 3 cures can be made, so someone's dying.
Mm-hmm.
Dying is always fun.
Hey, Jeffrey.
Hello.
So.
Sorry, I was
Jeffrey. It's all right. I'm going to be late tomorrow. I'm looking at this too. Do we want to try and make our game a little more asymmetric? Like have different options for different classes? Because if that was the case, then our game would end up being really asymmetric.
Yeah, like I know we said have one character who's like a hunter, or a hunter gatherer, I guess. So I guess for him going out, he'll get to collect like 1 extra food when he kills an animal, and maybe like 2 extra resources when he's looking for food or getting wood. But then we also have to make sure every other character has an ability that is useful in some way.
Yeah.
So we could say we have, a hunter, and he'll get I guess +1 more food. So for killing like a deer or something like that. Then we can say we have a herbalist. And they'll get +1 more plant when they're looking for plants.
Mm-hmm. You just call him a botanist.
The botanist?
Yeah. Little old lady.
Let's see what else. We could say a fisherman. We get +1 more fish. And what other components would they have?
Maybe an engineer, to where they could make, whenever they made a weapon, it could be more durable.
True, yeah.
So what exactly are we doing?
we're trying to figure out if our game's symmetric or asymmetric, but we have symmetric elements and asymmetric elements in our game. And in the instructions, our instructor says a game is either one or the other. And I'm kind of like, no, because they can be both. Like dodgeball. Starts off very symmetrical and turns asymmetrical real quick. Unless he's saying, like, either your game is completely symmetrical, or if it has symmetrical and asymmetrical components, it's considered asymmetrical.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah.
That each class has specific abilities that make.
So everyone starts out equal, right?
Well, they have their resources are equal, but
Yeah.
each class, like you were talking about, like our hunter class, whenever they get food, they get more food than, say, the botanist, based per roll.
I think
While the
maybe it might be
botanist-
more asymmetrical.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. Is I'm just kind of working this out and saying this is, after all this, our game is would be considered asymmetrical. But now that you're here, we can go back up to the top and work on the story part. Thank you, Jeffrey. Overall, the game is more asymmetrical than symmetrical. There we go.
We'll come back down to that after we get
Okay.
the other stuff.
All right, so we want to go back up since Jeffrey's here and work
Yeah.
on the overview.
Let's see. Hey, Jeffrey, do you know if there's a way we could set up a table of contents with hyperlinks and page numbers in Google Docs, or do you not know of any way to do that?
You set up like a table of contents. Is that what
Yeah.
you're asking?
Yeah, we have to set one up, and
It has to link to each page.
yeah,
I know you can do that in Word, but I don't know how to do that in Google Docs. So
I don't
'Cause we-
actually know. I'd have
well,
to
they
look
have
at
a
it.
table of contents page, or
because that might be
I'll have to look
something
it
we
up.
just have to do in Word.
I just put something in there. You guys see it?
No.
Maybe it's just on my page. But if you go to insert table of contents, you can add one in there. It has all the stuff in there, but I just don't know if it's got a page to it.
I just refreshed. Yeah, I'm still not seeing it.
Yeah.
I'm going to get rid of, or do you want me to keep the design history placeholder text in until we mess with? I'll probably just leave it in there until we mess with it.
We'll just leave it in there until we mess with it.
Okay, so
Do we see it now? I see it. Looks like Jeff put one in.
yeah, I've got.
I just don't know how to set it up so it goes to that page when you click on it.
Okay, well, basically, if you double click on it, or if you click on it, and then you'll see like the heading number, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
You click on that, and it'll jump down to the thing.
It's a really weird link.
We'll just have to.
Oh, okay.
What we might do is wait to create that
When we're done.
when we're done, in case we add any sections or we
Yeah.
have other things. So
So that'll be like the last thing. We can probably do that Saturday.
okay, we'll mess with the versions after we finish version 1. All right, so game overview. Where's the game take place?
Where are we at?
Um,
Page 4, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Islands that have
Placements.
seasons.
So it's just takes place on a giant island that has changeable seasons and 4 seasons and 4 different regions. We should probably note the seasons and the regions.
Mm-hmm. We may have to change our seasons up just a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you could say too, like I know a lot of tropical islands have monsoon season.
Yeah.
And if we had monsoon season, our cave would be full of water and inaccessible.
Yeah, true. That way they'd have to go there. That'll be, one of the priorities before that season hits to collect enough stone and enough mushrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we're typing this out, should we start like every sentence off with the name of our game, or
are we sticking with Vane? I kind of like it.
Yeah, I think stick with that now. I mean, if it changes, but
if it changes, there's a way you can hit like Control Shift F, and it'll go through. And every time we say Vane, it'll change it to what we type in.
Yeah.
So.
Let me see, like this. I have an example of a game design document. Let's see. I mean, pretty much a lot of the things they start off with is in like this game is called Morpheus, and it says, they start off with either in Morpheus or our game, the characters, the game.
Mm. I think we should probably start it off with just to be consistent.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
The game takes place on an island that has 4 seasons and 4 regions.
You could say on a pseudo deserted island, because there's nobody there except animals and
our characters. So yeah.
Wait, why am I doing this? Yeah, Frey. I am stealing your job, my friend. I am sorry about that. So, Jeffrey, good job, by the way, on our team project that we got back.
Oh yeah. But we did good.
I thought we did pretty good.
We got B+. I think we did better than the average. So
I saw that. And I was like, oh well, that's all good then. I said in my email, I was like, based on all the vagueness and the stuff that we weren't quite sure on, because that's what we got counted off on, was the stuff that we were kind of going back and forth on a lot of it. So I am very proud with what we ended up with.
Yep.
So Vane takes place on a pseudo-deserted island. I do think, Tyler, that we do need to say it has 4 distinct seasons.
Yep.
I'm going to look up like island climates real quick.
I would say, I know, like we mentioned the winter season, but I don't see a winter season hitting like the whole island, maybe higher elevations.
Yeah, like you could have
like I would say the forest and cave might be higher elevation, so maybe the forest would obviously be affected by a winter season, but I don't know about a beach and a river area.
Let's see here. I'm looking at the Caribbean islands. Caribbean islands tropical, moderated by a certain extent by the prevailing northeast trade winds. Individual climatic conditions are strongly dependent on elevation.
Yeah.
At sea level, there's little variation in temperature, regardless of time of day or the season of the year. Temperatures range between 24 and 32 Celsius in Kingston, Jamaica, whereas Manderville, a little over 600 meters high in the mountains of Manchester Parish, has recorded temperatures as low as 10 degrees. Okay. Daylight hours tend to be shorter during the summer and slightly longer during the winter than in the higher latitudes. Okay, they talk about rainy period. Windward mountains receive much rain, whereas leeward sides can have very dry conditions, so that can be our desert and our rainy side of the island. So we just have to figure out if we want like a how high our elevation is, because if we had something where, during monsoon season, if we're going to go with that, cave is inaccessible, so in order to get rocks or whatever, you have to go to the snowy mountain.
Yeah, so we would change. We'd have another region.
I just kind of spitballing here.
Do we want to change cave to a mountain instead?
Yeah, why don't we do that?
All right.
Maybe during the winter. There you go. During the winter months, that mountain, you have to roll for some kind of exposure.
Yeah.
For being that cold.
And I guess, what kind of plants would you find on a mountain? Not mushrooms, maybe.
Let's see. Mountain flora. Let's see.
Maybe one that's like actually used for curing diseases, or.
Yeah, I mean you can find like dwarf willow. You can find jasmine, edelweiss. Let's see what dwarf willow is. Because it just kind of sounds cool. What does it do? To survive in harsh environments. Further, what? So typically, those. Alright, that didn't tell me anything. You could, what we could do? We could just have a mountain cave.
Could do something like that.
Because you can find plants on like edelweiss and jasmine and that kind of stuff up there. So we could have generic green plant A until we figure out what it's going to be.
I mean, we could change it if there's another plant, but we'll just leave it. I'll say in the forest you collect moss, in the mountains we collect dwarf willow, rivers seaweed, and the beach would be, I said coconut, or coconut skin.
Yeah, we could do coconut, and then you could also do like crabs.
Yeah.
If you wanted to hunt for foods.
Yeah, let me put that one in there too. And sand for glass syringes.
Yep, and if we have, maybe that could be the engineer's goal. Is that's one of his main things is he has to be able to make flasks. And then if we're using the go nuts mechanic instead of just killing the player off, like he can still make a flask, but the roll is a lot higher for him to be able to do that when he's insane. If that's the route we want to go.
They all go boss.
Mm-hmm.
Alright. So we said Bane takes place on a pseudo-deserted island. Let's see. Where weather conditions differ based on your altitude. If you are in the mountains, weather may be colder, and while at sea level, weather will usually be more sustainable and warm. Different regions allow for different
Bless you.
Should we word it another way to where it says there's 4 regions? Like,
Just with 4 distinct regions.
yeah, so rain takes place on a considered zone where weather conditions differ based on the altitude and or season if you are in the mountains.
And we don't have to necessarily put like where we're, what their effects are
Yeah.
in this section. That'll go down more towards the actual little design parts. Oh, and don't forget, we have individual peer reviews are due tomorrow for last week.
Has anyone played Majora's Mask? Legend of Zelda?
I haven't played a Zelda game since like the first one on the Game Boy.
Well, the 4 regions just remind me of that game. So,
Well, yeah, and Hyrule was technically an island.
because in Majora's Mask, it takes place in Termina, which is different than Hyrule.
Mhm.
And it has 4 regions. It has a mountain, a swamp, an ocean, and a canyon. This is
Canyon,
4
yeah.
regions. Then it had a hub area, which was in the middle of it all.
Clock
So-
Town.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite games, so...
Alright, so does our setting look good?
Vane takes place on a pseudo-deserted island where weather conditions differ based on your altitude and or season. If you're in the mountains, weather may be, I would say like maybe for example,
Alright.
at the top of that sentence. We'll put little Mr. Comma right there. If you're in the mountains, weather may be colder. And we'll just say colder than it would be at sea level.
So do you want me to get rid of the description for sea level?
Yeah, because I mean, really for this, well, yeah, I would get rid of that because we'll go into more detail with that in our mechanics section.
Yep.
Right now in the overview, just like it's cold, it's hot, it's different. So what is the story?
Let's see. Players are abducted. Let's see, did we say that it was a test? They were test subjects, or let's see. It says players are abandoned on an island and injected with the virus. They have 48 rounds to gather the proper materials to cure the virus while collecting resources to survive exposure to the elements and symptoms of the virus. As the months go on, the seasons will change and affect the amount of resources the player can find. To make matters worse, a traitor can be among them, wreaking havoc from the shadows and pursuing their own furious goals. ... Was that supposed to be there, or was that supposed to be an end of one period?
It was supposed to be the ellipses of.
Oh, okay. All right, so
I think we should go with. I know we threw the idea around of it being like a reality show or whatever, but I think test subjects work a little bit better.
yeah,
And I think we figured out that the traitor is actually working. Is somehow connected to the overarching company that took these people.
yeah,
And trying to figure out what is the company's goal for synthesizing this? Maybe here's an idea. This virus is a weapon. It's a chemical weapon in development.
And they're seeing how it affects people.
They're seeing how it affects.
Sounds like
Go ahead,
Resident Evil.
I guess kind of maybe. They're seeing how it affects people, and if they can like, if if we release this in at ground zero where there's no real technology, rural place or whatever, how long would it take somebody to synthesize a cure?
Yeah.
And it's this guy's job to obviously stop that from happening with the other people and synthesize his own cure. But why would he want to do that?
Resident Evil
Yeah.
7.
And then why would they also tell them the materials needed to make a cure?
Mm-hmm. I could see him being like, trying to see how they would, if somebody's able to make a cure for this within a year, because a year's, it'd be one thing if they were like, hey, can you make a cure within 48 hours? And if they can, you up whatever X, Y, and Z in the virus so it would kill more people more quickly. But with our scenario, that doesn't really work.
Yeah.
If they've got a year to do it. So I guess maybe what is the trader's goal? Because he's infected to destroy everybody.
Destroy
everybody else or make them all crazy.
Yep.
Why?
Because it's fun.
Because it's fun. Because he's an anarchist.
Yep.
That it's a viable tactic. It's a viable option. But what else? Why is he doing that? Why is he? I say he or she. Why are they trying to screw over the other people?
Seeing if we mentioned that in previous in the focus sheet, but it's not. We didn't really say why. Just that they have a different goal.
Mm-hmm. We never really defined what that goal was.
No.
It was just antagonistic to the.
I know one thing we mentioned was the trader knows how to make a cure faster than everyone else, but then I said, well, what if they're not going to be a trader and they're going to say, hey, well, this is what we actually need to make it faster, so that wouldn't make them a trader.
Mm-mm.
Well, I guess it would be. I guess you could say like the trader. If we're all sitting down playing the game and we have a year to collect, or 48 rounds, whatever, to collect this many resources, and say I don't have enough confidence in you guys collecting those amount of resources, and like I said, say you needed 40 mushroom, and I feel like okay, well. There's 4 of us, so that's 10 mushrooms apiece, and I've already collected my 10, or I collected even more, but let's just say I collected 10, but I don't feel like you, Michael, collected 10 for yourself, and so at the end of the game, when it comes down to if we have enough, who's going to survive and who's going to die, what if the trader's going to be like, well, I'm going to keep 10 for myself, but say I put in 10, but it's going to be 10 of something else, or maybe I collected more mushrooms. Say I collected 15 and I'm only going to put in 5, so I have 10 for myself to make a cure.
Mm-hmm.
You think that could be a way? I mean, it wouldn't be that way. The trader won't be exposed until the end of the game, because when they decide, they flip over the resource and say, oh well, we're 5 short on mushrooms, and then whoever had the trader could be like, well, I'm going to live because I actually kept 5 or 10 to myself and didn't give them to the whole team because I didn't feel like you guys were going to collect enough. You know what I'm saying?
I do, but if we're going to do that, then like having the engineer guy be the only one who can make these glass syringes. I mean, what? I feel like he's got to have another goal besides just self-preservation in order for him to want to betray these other people that he's with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know if, because we could have him be part of that organization, but uh, unless he's part of the organization and he's like a rogue scientist, and he just wants to see the actual effects of this virus on humans.
Yeah, but then you'd have to say, well, is he also infected or no? Because when I think about having like in Lost, the second, I guess, part of it, where the second part of the plane came down when they started showing that, and that one guy was part of the group, but Michelle Rodriguez realized that he was not wet or injured when he showed up. So it made her question, like, well, where were you when the plane came down?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I keep thinking of, is if we're going to have someone working as, like, a spy or, rogue scientist, when everyone else appears on the island and they're infected, and he's already there as a scientist, he probably won't be infected, so really the symptoms aren't going to have any effect on him. So if you're going to say he's a traitor, when you deal a symptom card, he wouldn't be affected by it, so that would automatically raise a red flag that, well, if you're not affected, then, you must be, who are you? Where'd you come from?
Unless he's the one that was on the team that designed the virus, you could say that he would be able to. I mean, it's a stretch, but you could say that he would be able to fake his symptoms, or because otherwise you'd have to. You're right. If the players, you turn over a symptom card and this guy's like, I'm not going to be affected by this.
Everyone else has got a symptom card. You know what? You're going to throw up for the whole day and be cough, and he's just sitting there. I don't feel good.
The other thing we could have is that he already has some antidote.
Yeah.
And if the players call him out as a traitor, they get that antidote.
Could do something like that. But then still, what would his reason for being a traitor be?
Well, again,
I think that would be a cool mechanic or a feature to add, is if someone suspects the traitor and thinks that they're... well, no, because then I guess, say in the beginning of the game, then it would just be like everyone would say you're a traitor, and if they say no, then all you got to do is go to the next person and say you're the traitor, and if they say no, then you go to the last person who's probably got to be a traitor. So if they say yes, then they got the antidote you handed over. So that would probably cure the virus early on.
You'd have to have some kind of like a really bad punishment if you were wrong.
I mean, the only punishment I would see is losing trust in the team or the group. If you're going to start blaming people.
Mm-hmm. Well, the way it just kind of popped into my head is, say that I blame you and you're not the traitor.
Yeah.
But the person that is the traitor is like, oh, somebody knows something's not right.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, this person the next morning wakes up and has like 10 more symptoms that nobody else has. To the point where it could almost put you into that out of the game scenario that we were talking about.
Yeah.
But you're right. It would be like, what's to stop somebody from calling them out
early on?
Early on. But that could just be a reason why, if this is a researcher that volunteered for this trip, because let's say like this virus or whatever, this new virus they synthesized, this is the first human trial, right?
Yeah.
So this guy, he's curious. He wants to see what happens. So his job is to keep them infected as long as he can, to learn as much as he can about them. So he's not going to necessarily want them to find all of their resources the way that they need to find it. And if he has a cure, then that would explain, if he succeeded in his goal and the other players die after that 24-hour period, he still has, a cure that this company has synthesized already.
Yeah.
He would survive, and that would be the trader's win condition.
All right. Yeah, it's could do something like that.
I just don't know what other goals he would have. Jeffrey, what do you think? Any ideas?
Well, I mean, I guess I have one, but I don't know how well it is. I was just thinking, what if the trader just like didn't trust anyone? I mean, like, and there's a reason behind this. Not, it's like, so if he's like a scientist or whatever, and he's with the other guys who were, doing the test subjects, what if the trader was like betrayed by them or something and like left on the island?
So he's out for vengeance.
Yeah, maybe he just doesn't trust anyone. He just wants revenge, and maybe he just takes it out on the other players that are already on the island.
I kind of like that.
I mean, that was my idea.
So what would his end winning condition be? Like what is his goal besides like he's taking it out on the other players, but what does he have to do to win the game?
Take out the other. I don't exactly know.
Or at least get them to the point where they all die
at
the end of the game.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, maybe he's just like the trader is just, he's like, screw you guys, we're all going down together.
He's already the insane one.
He's already insane. But if he's already insane, then how do the other members not know he's insane?
Yeah. So that's the thing. It's going to be. I think it's going to be complicated. Yet, having the trader, but keeping him anonymous until the end of the game, or not, being exposed early on, or giving anyone any ideas on there is a trader and who it might be.
Mm-hmm. And then if we do have a mechanic where we call him out, what happens?
Yeah. I mean, it could always be like in Dead of Winter, you call someone out, they could just say no, so everyone could say, no, I'm not a traitor, which, either they're not or someone is or no one is, so, I mean, like Dead of Winter, there doesn't have to be a traitor in the game,
mm-hmm.
So we necessarily don't have to have a traitor in ours either.
Well, yeah, for in each game, because I like the idea of having that mechanic, but at the same time, we're running into some real design issues of how do we keep him hidden? That's pretty easy.
Yeah.
But what are his goals? What is he trying to do? What is his win condition, and how do we hide that win condition from the other players? I do like Jeffrey's idea that this guy's just like, maybe he was the underperforming employee at Konami, and they decided to make him human test subject, number 5. He thought he was going for a dream vacation, and then wakes up in this, cabin in the woods with everybody else. But if that's the case, though, he would probably know more about
the virus
and synthesizing a cure.
Yeah.
So that actually might work. Oh man, that makes me sad. But that could work, and he may be, like you said, he may be able to make that cure faster.
Yeah.
But if he's hell-bent on revenge, he wouldn't necessarily want to help the others. He's just looking out for him, and he's trying to basically get back at this company, or he may be trying to, in his own way, find redemption with this company, saying like, or this powerful organization saying, look, I'm still useful. I did this. Bring me back.
Yep.
Okay, I like you. Have a good sleep. What about that? What does everybody think of that kind of scenario?
Yeah, that one can work. Where I was thinking, um, what if all the characters that we have involved and are on the island, what if in some way they all knew each other, um, and they all did something to each other that would, piss each other off, and them being on the island having this virus, all of them being infected, have to work together to get a cure. It could give them a chance to, you know, burn some old bridges and bury the hatchet, or pretend to bury the hatchet, but like I said, they end up keeping some of the materials to themselves
Mhm.
and putting in a different material to the cure pile. Because
Oh yeah, we.
then you can have probably more than one trader. If player 1 and 2 decide they, buried the hatchet with each other, um, and they say, well, here I got 10 mushrooms and this and that. I'm going to put those in player 2 says I got the same thing. So there's 2 cures made for us. And then player 3 is like, you know what? Well, this dude slept with my wife. I don't want to help him. And then he's like, well, I'm only going to put in 1 and keep 9 to myself, but I'll go find 1 more for myself.
This would be hard to communicate that if all of your cards are hidden.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing we got to figure out is when they're in the region and they're gathering the resources. Do we want it to be exposed so everyone can see that, or
I don't think so. Not if we have a trader card. I think it'd
yeah,
be better off that like whenever you get the resources, you just put them in your hand,
yeah,
and then at the end of your turn, when you put those resources from your hand
face
to the
down.
community pool face down, yeah.
Okay. So when in that region for them to collect the resource card, is it based on a roll, like a higher number roll or a lower? Well, I guess when it comes down, when we get to that point, we can discuss that more. I don't want to get off track on the story.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I mean, I like the idea of pitting everybody against each other, but I think that ends up it would be harder to track.
yeah,
And if we want to have this story of betrayal being a key component in our game, we have to build that in to where, um, and if we say this is a game for 4 players, and we randomly shuffle the cards, and one player will always be a traitor.
yeah,
I like the idea of his goal being, to kind of one of vengeance, and maybe he has a way of redeeming himself with this government organization or whoever stuck him down there. So Jeffrey, I like that idea. I think that kind of clarifies his goals, but damn it, it's too close to Dead of Winter too. Because I was going to say I really like the idea of having each player have maybe their own personal win condition.
mm-hmm.
Like I've got to hunt 5 animals in order for me to win, but that is exactly what they do in Dead of Winter.
Yeah. I like the idea of them all having the same goal, finding cure or materials, making a cure before the game ends, or whenever they can.
I do too. That's one of the things too. If we can get that groundwork really solid this week, we can always kind of add a little bit more to see. Oh, maybe we can make this a little bit more interesting. Okay, so we'll say our story. Is everybody cool with the vengeance idea?
Yeah, I made a note in that in my game notes. The trader is seeking revenge, and his end condition is to. Do we clarify that? His exact end condition?
I think his end condition is he ends up being the sole survivor.
So he has to be the sole survivor? So
I think so. All the other players have to die. at the end of that 24-hour period. So either if all the players lose, and he has the components needed to make his version of the cure, which would take less than, you know, what other people would need because he has more experience with the virus, knows how to fix it a little bit.
I cannot spell today.
At the end of the game, he'll be able to be like, I win, and
so I got the traitor is seeking revenge. His end condition is to become the only survivor to redeem himself.
yes.
Right.
And I think the class cards that's where they'll, well, how would we denote? We'll figure that out later.
Yeah. Let's we'll work on the story.
Yep. Jeffrey, editor and story master, make it so.
I mean, I wonder if maybe we could just take what we had.
And just add on to it a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm all for that.
Just copy and paste.
Yeah, I was thinking. Let's see. Yeah, just copy and paste, and we'll add or take away stuff.
Did you guys have a chance to take a look at the making analog games digital resources at all?
Yep. The what was it? Pyromancers and Roll20.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I didn't look at Pyromancers, but I looked at Roll20, and if there's a way to code in like basic cards,
Yeah.
that might be something that we could all do to play test it. But I've watched like the first 2 videos on it. I haven't really delved into it too much.
Yeah, I started toying around with creating a level. I tried to make a level for us, like a map for us, but I was like, well, I want to discuss with everyone first, see how we're going to make it. So. Alright, we could probably start off. Main. Players are abandoned on an island and injected with a virus.
Mm-hmm.
Players have 48 rounds or 12 months.
We can get rid of that and just say they have a year
Yeah.
for the story part of it.
1 year, we'll say 48 rounds. To gather the proper materials. Well, see, now this kind of tells them their objective, which really isn't part of the story. So I guess this part can be taken out. So we say, in vain, players are abandoned on an island and injected with a virus as part of a medical experiment.
Part of a experiment.
They learn that there is a cure that can be made by using certain materials.
Certain materials, local. Certain materials that. It's another way of saying certain materials that are in their immediate vicinity.
Yeah.
I say resources.
Yeah, let's change it to resources. Let's say certain resources I was thinking they learn that they have 1 year to create a cure from by using certain resources on an island. As the months go on, the seasons will change and affect the non-resources. Now that's kind of more of a mechanic instead of a story.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, no, you can leave that. Just instead of maybe rewrite it to say players will be challenged by the elements, by weather.
should we give the island a name?
As long as it's not Rook Island. Um,
I think that might be a question that would come up with a lot of people. Is well, what's the name of the island, or where is it? Maybe.
is this a synthetic island, do you think, or is it just like an actual island?
I think it could be synthetic, kind of like Lost. I mean, the island's there, but kind of like out of this time zone, out of this.
Sure.
So I guess we leave it like that.
Yeah. Island GB1AX.
We could do something like that. The players have been on an island called GB. What is it? GB1X.
GB1AX. For some reason, the A is important. I don't really know why. And then we could say that unknowns to the rest of the abductees, one in their number is a former employee of said government project and is plotting his revenge and eventual redemption from the shadows. I don't know.
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. That's what those ... dots were.
All right.
Okay.
Should we say, like, amongst the group, there is an ex-employee who is seeking revenge and redemption.
Yeah, an ex. We should probably put ex-government employee too, so
Yeah.
they know it's tied to Project GB1AX. Just kind of fun to say.
I don't know how you say like ex-employee of or whatever. Like,
Amongst the
Oh.
group, there is an
We can't say disgruntled employee.
we'll say unemployed.
Unemployed employee?
an employee.
Uh,
I can't think of
Like X. Where did I type that? Whoops.
to say the government or is there a specific like part of the government that you want to put in?
you just put of the GB1AX project.
Should we say employee or scientist?
As a scientist,
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's an X.
he fell from grace somehow. Oh, here you go. Or we could say just there is a scientist. Who hides in the shadows and
Against
Amongst
rest, let's say against the rest of players to for revenge and redemption.
there is a. I'm just going to put former. Oops. A former scientist.
Yeah, no way. And I don't know if there's a spot. Maybe we'll have to explain that more. But like his story is, we'll have to give him a reason why he's a former scientist. And I guess they said if you want to come back in the group, then go here, make sure none of these people survive, but pretend to be one of them.
What's another term for like a term, another like an employee that fell from grace, per se,
Just one who got fired or let off.
or threat, or on his last, like maybe in this government agency they don't fire you,
Yeah.
and it was either this or the firing squad for this guy.
So like not completely out, but not completely in. You know, you're. It's either you do this in success or you're gone.
Yeah.
Kind of like a fraternity party or a group, something like that. You know, you want to be part of us, you got to do this. How would you say that?
Let's see here. So this guy, our trader guy.
I guess we don't have to say former scientist. We could just say, you know, he's just a scientist of the project who.
Oh, I got former member.
Yeah, you do that. Because also, if he's going to be one of the characters and he has one of the special abilities that come with them, I mean, a scientist would be, you know, he would be like smart, so he really wouldn't fall into the hunter, herbalist, fisherman, or engineer. I mean, he could be the engineer.
Yeah.
But then that kind of tells everyone who he is.
Yeah, so if we just say he's a former member, and let's say like you have your character cards, and then you pull a specialization, and but the specialization has to be.
Well, so basically, we could just say that everyone, regardless if you're the engineer, hunter, or whatever, has a chance to be this member. So they don't even have to be a scientist. They could just be, you know, blank until whoever draws the trader card. Then this is, you know, this person's special ability, and how they fit into the group or the project would, you know, is another story.
Yeah.
So.
And we can put that like in the rule set a little bit when we write the rules. You know, the trader is this, and that's kind of where we can put his backstory.
Yeah. I'm gonna highlight or do something with all these notes, just so underline them, I guess, just so we know, or the explanations, just so we can know where to delete.
Yeah.
Because
it even says here too, you know, if, don't get too long. Generally, a couple paragraphs are sufficient for most analog games. So we can.
It says at most a page, like half a page.
Half a page.
Yeah. So, main focus.
Now that you know where the game takes place and what the story is, what are the players supposed to achieve in this world? Angry fellow players take over your building. Be careful not to add a bunch of salesmen here. Your design wants to stay light and informative at this point. You want to be able to describe what the player needs to do in the game. Well, first and foremost, they have to gather resources to survive that month's required goals.
Yep. And to stave off this, survive that and survive the symptoms as well.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go brew a cup of coffee real quick, or start the coffee pot. I will be right back.
Alrighty.
So, like, would players first have to establish, like, base camp or whatever?
Well, we said the base was the camp was already
there.
Yeah. And from there, they just got to go out and get the resources and gather the cure components. So we'll say players' main focus is to gather resources to meet that month's goals. Meet the goals for that. Goals for month and collect the proper amount of resources to craft a cure.
So instead of craft, we'd say formulate.
Yeah, I should say that.
I don't know, it just sounds fancier. Oops, this next space.
Say the traders main focus is to blend in with but prevent them from obtaining their
Oops.
I'm sure I'll have to go into that a little more at some point. So players' main focus. Let's see, what players' main focus is to gather resources to meet the goals for that month and collect the proper amount of resources to formulate a cure.
So when we say players, that usually refers to everyone. Should we like have a specific name for the players that need to collect the cure? Because I mean, the trader's the trader, but in players kind of refers to everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll say players because we want the trader like to fit in. So we'll want him to also collect the resources. I mean, obviously he's going to need to help collect food and water to survive also. But when it comes to the resources for the cure, he's going to want to collect them too. See now, if we want the trader, his goal is to prevent everyone else from getting the resources for the cure. I feel like if everyone knows they have to gather this many resources, then the trader really doesn't have to gather those resources.
No, he doesn't. Not unless he's trying to get something for the other players. Again, that's the kind of thing, if we want to have a mechanic where he's called out, what happens.
Yeah.
But
I mean, there's really, if they're all going to be on an island, they all wake up, and then, no one's going to suspect that, well, he was part of this group, or the scientists, the government group behind this. He can just say, well, I was outside of here, I was an engineer, and then they find out they need to get stuff to make a cure, but he's like, well, I'm not really infected, so I don't really need to do this, I just gotta make sure they all die, so, there's really no point for him to go out and actually collect things. So if we say this is the amount of stuff they need, each person needs to collect, and no one suspects there's a trader until the end, then it seems like it's always going to be the trader who wins, because, if you need 10 of each item, and he doesn't need to go collect anything, then there's always going to be 30 of each item collected. So, but then that means that that 30 would be enough to make 3 cures to heal everyone else, so he would actually lose. So he would actually always lose.
Unless he I said again, unless we had it to where it was you had to collect. Because the other thing you got to remember too is what happens month to month, and how much those resources take also.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the other thing. Is how many resources, for one, will be in each region. We don't want them to deplete the resources before, in like 3 rounds.
Yep.
So we know that the trader's goal is to prevent everyone else from making the cure. But how can he sabotage it and win, or how can the other players prevent him from sabotaging it? I'm thinking maybe now, instead of having everyone needs to collect 10 to win, so there's 1 for each person. I think it might be easier if we just said that they would have to collect this many to make 1 cure, but that cure can be distributed among all of them. But then this is where the trader is allowed to not put in anything to help make the cure, or put in something different.
Yeah, but that would have to be during the later part of the year as well.
Yeah.
So what if you had, I guess, like sections to watch over, like for like your supplies and whatnot, and then if the trader like chose to attack on part or like steal from it, you had someone watching it and like it would just fail or something like that.
How'd you denote that to where the other person wouldn't know that the trader failed or that they took that action?
I mean, I don't know how we're doing the. I mean, if we have cards, I don't know if we're throwing all the cards in like one pile and then everyone just looks at it and sees what happens, or if we're doing something else for that kind of thing. Because I mean, if we all put it into one pile and just like look through everything and see what happens based on the cards, it's kind of like no one would exactly know who did it.
Yeah.
At the same time, they know what happened.
That's like in Dead of Winter and in here, at the end of every month we'd have a goal. So say you had to get 10 food, but
yeah, like the colonies, or not the colony, the group is starving this month, and we have to find this amount of food, or
but say you had to get 10 food and everyone went out and got food, but someone came back short, but they didn't want to seem like they came back short, so then they're going to throw something else into the pile too. And remember, everything's face down, so you don't know who put what in there. You shuffle the deck and then you flip over, and you hope there's 10 food in there, but maybe there's 8, and then there's 2 stones. Someone's eating stones that month.
Yeah, stuff.
And then that's when you get the symptom card.
Yeah, and that's when you realize, well, someone's not being faithful here and being loyal, so then that's going to be everyone's thinking like, all right, someone's betraying us. Either they're keeping food to themselves, or they're not, doing their part in help gathering food.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So the main focus. The players got to gather resources to meet the month's goal and to formulate a cure. The trader needs to blend in with the group and prevent them from obtaining their end condition.
Yes.
I think that's all right for now. At least we get something in here for now, and when we get Justin and David in here, we might be able to add more to make it better. So at least we just get the ball rolling. Right.
It is only Monday. We don't have to have the entire document finalized tonight. All right, so how many characters or units pieces does a player control?
1.
But they also
2000.
control their resource cards. They also control,
True. Right.
you
So
know,
we'll say the players control 1 avatar card or standee, I guess. And how many characters? I mean, I guess that's units, characters, and pieces would all be the same thing. So I guess they all control 1 character.
yeah. And then we could put, in underneath here, could make a list of, the different items that character has. Well, one character who, manages resource cards. And then we could even make that further. We could have wood. What was the other one? Stones.
Yep. Food and water.
Food. Water.
And then
And we had mushrooms.
well, cure cards, I guess. I don't, do you want to put every plant that we had?
Yeah, we'll do. Let's say we'll do resource cards, and then we'll make another layer, and we'll say cure components.
Yeah. And we had moss, dwarf willow, seaweed, and coconut.
Seaweed, and what was coconut?
Yeah. I don't unless there's another plant on a beach that we can use other than coconut.
And then food. We said that we were using.
Uh,
Those aren't really cards, though. The
What
food.
about bananas?
Yeah. So why don't we have like food tokens?
Alright. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I said for food, in the forest you would have deer, and in the river you would have fish. On the beach you would have crabs.
yeah.
Yeah, crabs.
And for the mountain, I guess. I mean, I don't think we need food in every region.
No.
So, like the river is the only region to get water. I mean, the beach has water, but you can't drink salt water. So,
I mean, is it going to be like clean water, or do we have to have some way of like purifying water?
well, if it's going to be a river, then I guess we'll just say it's clean water.
Hmm.
So, I know we did mention, I think before you showed up, that we would have wood and stone used to make fire. That way you can cook your meat. But do we want to? Is that something we want to still do, or?
I think so, because I think if let's say we use wood and stone, they have two separate things you can make with them. You can either make a fire to cook your food, or you can make a spear to hunt your food.
Yeah. Well, we could say that too. Wood is used for fire, and the stone is used. You need stone to strike stone on stone to cause a spark or something. But then stone is also used to make a weapon.
So then there's a real present choice there.
Yeah.
Do I make fire? Do I make a spear?
Yeah.
Weapons. What would the because the would be a spear. We'll put crafted from stone and wood. And then what would fire be? Fire would be
I guess that would probably just fall under like the resource card too. Because let's say at the end of the month, if you got your food, you know, we could just say, well, you just got to collect the food and that's it, or you collect the food, but you also have to cook it. So at the end of the month, if you don't have the proper amount of wood, then you can't make your fire.
Yeah.
So you're eating food, spoiled food or uncooked food, which could cause more symptoms.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I like that.
so we could say fire would be
So they wouldn't necessarily control a fire token.
no.
Um, and the spears could be. The spear could. Well, how would you keep track of how many spears you made? Would that have to be a physical token, or would that have to be?
Yeah, we could, because you did say that the weapons would only last, a certain amount of rounds before it, is, destroyed. So you could say there is a token, and you have it for 3 rounds, and after 3 rounds,
It goes back in the pile.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah. So, spear, 10 foot of wood. Also a token. And then the fire itself, we could do fire being fire. Oops, fire could be a token too. I mean, we've got enough little things.
yeah, we have all those marbles.
Mm-hmm.
We have 4
Token.
different colors, so we'll have, food, spear, fire, and well, is food going to be a token or a card?
I think food should be a token. Like maybe there's a food space on our board that you can move to, and then you.
Because if there's nothing like a card that tells people, obviously they got their month goal pile, and you put your food, you put your water in there.
There would have to be a card then. Yeah,
Yeah.
I see what you're going for. So food would have to be
card.
a card, yeah.
Um,
And you could just denote. We could just make a generic food card, and then just have a space on the board that looks like a crab or looks like a deer or whatever, and then
yeah.
go from there. But the spears and the fire are physical tokens because that's one of those things that maybe that's the only thing that people can't really cheat on. Like the trader couldn't cheat,
Yeah.
and he could be like, "I'm going to take."
And for the fire, obviously everything is a monthly goal. So for them to eat their food at the end of the month, they need the fire. So at the end of the month, they eat their food, and the fire's gone until the end of the next month, right? Or do you just want to say the fire is going to continue to be there throughout the month? I feel like. Go on.
Ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to say I think that maybe it's just kind of included in that whenever you flip everything over to see if you met all the requirements.
Yeah. Okay. I don't want it to be like you have a fire and you have to maintain it throughout the month.
No, I think you just have to have those components at the end of the month.
Okay. In order to build your fire.
Yeah, in order to build the fire to cook the food that you've gotten.
Okay.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
What's up, buddy?
When it comes to food, how will we know, like, I guess how much of the food we have? I mean, if we have a card saying we have, like, this food or something, how do we know how much of it we have?
It'll be like you go to the forest, say you end up rolling and you encounter a deer or something, you kill the deer, you get +2 food. So then you keep that to yourself until the end, or no, you put it in the pile in the base, and everyone does that throughout the month. And at the end of the month, you flip the card over, and it'll say, all right, well, let's say you need 10 food. So you flip the card over. Well, you're at 2. You flip another one over. You get +1 from crab or something like that. So it'll have like a plus and a number on there. So that's how many food it's worth. And then at the end of the month, when you flip them over, however many you got, you just add them up. And if it, is the amount that you need, then you completed that month's goal.
So the different types of food will represent how much like overall food you technically have. So if I got a crab, it could be equal to like 2 food.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
like a deer would be 2 food, and like crab and fish would be 1. You know,
Alright.
just judging by the size they are.
Yep.
So
So then would like size be a thing too? Like if I got like a jumbo crab.
I don't
I
know.
think we may not have enough time to implement that particular feature because this is already a pretty ambitious game. I mean, I think we can do it. I don't think it's overscoped for our capabilities, but it's a pretty ambitious game. I don't know if because then you figure out, okay, how do we differentiate? You know, whenever you're during the setup of the game, do you have to go through and find all the deer cards and stick them
Yeah,
in the forest, and go through and find all the crab cards and stick them in the
yeah. I mean, that's something we might have to look into doing, or each
Def-
pile is going to be a separate. You know,
deck, pretty much.
yeah.
We'll find that out through playtesting too.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean,
There's so many decks.
We still have to set up our board and exactly how it's going to look like, and how are they actually going to get a resource card? Are they going to roll and land on it? That kind of thing.
So, and that's the cool thing is that's what the versions are for,
Yeah,
and we can go through and be like, well, we wrote version 1, and then we figured out that this probably isn't the best idea. Alright, so we've got. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that they control. And you said we're going with each person synthesizing their own cure, or one overarching cure for everybody.
I think it would be easier for one cure for
Okay.
everybody.
So I need to make a cure components section.
'Cause I feel like if it's everyone making their own, then everyone's but the trader's going to win, because the trader's goal is to stop them from making it.
Okay, Jeff.
And if everyone needs this amount of 10 mushrooms to make a cure, then they can get their 10, and I don't know how the traders will be able to stop them from getting their 10. So I think having one cure for everyone, kind of like the meeting the end of the month goals, is you need 10 food to feed everyone, but if someone came up short while they were out hunting, they don't want to seem like that, so they're going to put something else into it. So,
And we can figure out what it takes to make a cure later. So I'm just going to put the components.
yeah,
Because that could be like. Wait a minute. Well, shit. That's really close to Dead of Winter. I was going to say we could have like each class have a personal goal,
yeah.
and that personal goal is to create that component of the cure.
I think
But this,
I think everyone having the same goal might be a little easier for the sake of this game.
I agree. Absolutely. So in that case, I'm just going to leave cure components blank with the TBA until we figure out what we're going to do with that.
All right.
Now, are we going to go with any kind of like hit point or insanity point mechanic?
I'm trying to think on how to add something like that in there. I mean, giving the players a health. I know you said if they have a spear when they go in the forest, and if they had it, then they kill the animal. If they didn't, then they would take damage.
Or just not get food for that?
Yeah, I mean, I would think you would need, like, let's say in the forest you need a spear to kill a deer, or a bow and arrow, whichever we choose. We should put also, weapons or tools. We could say weapons and tools.
Yeah.
If you're fishing, you need
Like a net.
a net or fishing pole.
Mhm.
And
So-
if you're catching crabs, it's probably the same thing. So
Yeah, you
Probably
could
more
spear a crab.
go on, Justin or Jeffrey.
I was thinking if we added a bow for like a weapon, I thought that could be like some like interesting mechanic. Like you can be like an extra space away or something, because it's more of a ranged weapon than like close range. or something like that. Like you can be like one space away.
Yeah, I mean that's a good idea. Like if we're out, you're in the forest and you roll, and you move 2 spaces, but the space you're on is empty, but the next space is, a resource card. You could use your your bow to get that resource card.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Because I mean, I just figured it's a long range weapon, so you don't want to. You don't want to be as close as if you were using a spear or something.
We can make a Jenga tower and have them. You have to knock it over with a physical bow and arrow.
Reminds me, I should see if I can find the picture of.
I don't want to add too much stuff to the game. That's gonna, when someone reads the instruction, that'll make them forget something. Like, if we obviously in the instructions we say when you're in a region, I don't know. That might not be too much to add in there. It might be.
Just have to see.
Yeah, I made a note of it, but I guess that's something we could figure out when we actually start, when we get to the region areas.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that I'm trying to figure out too is we have the doomsday counter, and the symptom cards that mess with people. So maybe even it's just because if our trader's goal is just to make sure that they don't get the cure, I don't know if we really need to have necessarily a health kind of mechanic, because the end goals aren't determined on health. It's just, did you synthesize the cure within that time frame, or did you not?
I guess we can do something like that.
We can try it, and if we feel like it really needs a health thing, we can, play testing. It's fun. We can do that.
Alright, is there anything else we need to what the player controls?
So we've got his... I should probably put his standee there.
Yeah. Let's put that up here. Players control one character standee who manages. Or do you want to put that as its own bulletin point?
I'll put it as, because it's a game object. Like the player is physically messing with all of these things. Standee.
So I know this may be a bit like off topic, but I figured I'd show everyone.
Yep.
So, my sister did her graduation because she got her master's degree. She made like these giant versions of board games, and you're talking about Jenga, so I want to show this photo of giant Jenga.
Oh my god.
That's so
massive. Oh wow.
You could kill someone with that.
You could totally kill someone with that.
If this falls over, you die. Literally.
You are buried under the Jenga pieces.
I'll be back. I think my food's here, so I'll grab it.
Alright.
Let me go ahead and underline this part.
Yeah.
Well, we're making not terrible time.
No, 2 hours. We're doing all right.
And the good thing now is, this is the hardest part is taking all the vague statements we had in our focus sheet and really drilling down into what they are. So
yeah, I'm thinking when we hit, if we get that far, but at least we should try to make it to rules and mechanics, because I feel like that's going to be a whole another meeting itself.
I agree too, and I think now you want to go through the feature set as well, game components.
Yeah, I think that'll be one board game. We got that, 4 standee characters.
Resources. These are just the things.
Oh,
the physical things that are in the book. Okay, I thought when I saw the feature set, I thought this was like, our animal is a feature.
Yeah.
I was like that goes in the design part. Okay, alrighty.
All right, so I think for now the character units and pieces they control is good.
I agree. We can revise. So symmetry we did that might need to be edited a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
Like I said, at least we got something in there to give us something to work with.
Alright, well now I'm back.
yeah, back. Well, I'm gonna go real quick because my coffee's done. I'll BRB.
Alrighty. Is your game cooperative or non-cooperative?
It's about both.
I think a little more cooperative.
Yeah, probably both more cooperative.
The player is able to form binding commitments. Our game is a 4-player. Let's say Vane.
So I realized that on our focus sheet, Vane is spelled with an A instead of E. Are we changing it to E?
Oh, was it with an A?
Yeah, it was with an A.
Oh, alright. I thought it was with an E.
I mean, I'll go back and change it. Well, that's one. I didn't know
What
if
What did we give it for the acronym?
it was virus, atrophy,
Yeah.
isolation, and no hope.
Alright, yeah, so it is with an A. Thanks for pointing. I thought it was an E. I was actually trying to spell Vane. Alright, thanks for pointing that out. That was close. Alright, so Vane is a 4-player cooperative game where players must work together to gather resources to survive and build a cure for virus.
Fancy word. Formulate.
Formulate.
Otherwise, is it competitive? So I think that's it. That playstyle is pretty quick, pretty simple.
Well, we should probably add the trader side of the playstyle too, because that's more.
Yeah, I guess the trader is competitive.
Mhm.
The trader.
Glad I'm not the only one that keeps misspelling trader.
Yeah. I
You know, by the end of this,
That's like, I was like, man, how do you? I thought there was a Y in there. I was like, because betrayal is with a Y. I was like, I couldn't spell it. It took me like 10 minutes to figure out. I was like, all right, you know what? I'll leave it. Jeffrey, I'll go back. The trader is the only player who is competing. Now, he's only competing against them to prevent them from building the virus. He's still got to work with them to gather resources and survive.
Mhm.
So just put that in there. The trader is the only player who's competing against the other players only to prevent them from he must help collect resources to survive. Alright, that's good for now.
Yep, I agree.
Summation. Is your game zero sum or non-zero sum? A game that is zero sum, like chess and poker, gives the winner exactly what the other players lose. In other words, the available resources within the game are not expected but remain constant. You capture a pawn, your opponent loses that pawn. You draw the 3 spades, the other players cannot draw it. There is only one assuming single deck. A non-zero sum game is player can gain or lose a resource independently. For example, I land on a space and draw a card that gives me another resource without affecting the other players.
Ours is non-zero sum because if they
Yeah.
draw something from the forest, it doesn't affect somebody if they're in the
Yeah.
mountain. My middle daughter decided to come and keep us company.
Nice.
Yep, she's crashed out on the couch.
Nine, zero, so if a player draws a resource card from one region, it does.
I mean, does it really bother anyone no matter where they are?
No.
So could we just say from anyone? It doesn't bother them.
Yeah, I guess we could.
'Cause, I mean, if you're in the same region, it still doesn't bother them. It's just,
Player draws a resource from any region does not affect players. I think that's good for now. Perfect and perfect information.
We have imperfect information.
Alright.
Because of all of our cards being face down.
True. Resource cards that are collected are placed face down until the end of we should call them survival resource cards, I guess, and cure resource cards.
Yeah. I mean, and we could even have the cure things themselves not necessarily. We could use a different counter for that. Like, say you achieved one of the cure goals or whatever, then you would just, like, if we had 4 or 12 or 8 like components or whatever, you would just move that counter up, and once you completed all the goals on that counter and got to. Well, how would you make sure that you do that in 12 months, though?
Yeah.
Yeah, scratch that. We have to figure out a way to get those cure components and track them, but we'll figure that out in the design phase.
Yeah, well, I think it'll be just like the research. I mean, if you're in the forest and you collected, 5 moss cards, you would put that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Face down. And hopefully at the end of the month or at the end of the game or end of the year, you would have, let's say, the 30 that you need to make the cure. If not, well, looks like you guys are crap out of luck. Alright, so I think that's alright for now. Alright, feature set. General features include what your game entitles: building, conflict, diplomacy, tree, conquering, ranking. Give a bullet list with a brief 1 to 2 sentence explanation of each major feature. Make sure you know what the feature is. You should not have anything about the story unless it's original and plays evidence of the marketing approach, game components, or else you should have any information in the game that makes your game special or unique. This is the section many producer types will go first. Alright. So what's one feature we will have?
Resource gathering is a big one.
Alright. So collecting.
Yeah.
We have a bullet list of collecting.
So we have collecting resource cards. We have
collecting Here, say, do we want to just say resource cards so it's both resource or survival and cure cards, or do we want collecting survival resource cards and cure cards?
I think they both kind of end up being this.
Yeah, they're both resource cards, so I guess they fall in the same feature.
I could say
I mean, if-
resource / survival cards.
Well, if you really wanted to, you could just do this.
Yeah.
Survival,
And cure.
cure.
Right. No
There
worries.
you go. Regions that vary in resource distribution. Seasons that affect resource
Collection
dis.
or distribution.
Distribution is the word of the day.
I've already used it once. That's free. So we have seasons. We have symptom cards.
Yeah.
Cards. And these symptom cards.
We still have to go over what symptoms they'll have.
So do we have like tool and weapon cards?
We have
The-
tool and weapon tokens.
Yeah.
Tokens. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Symptom cards, and those they inhibit player actions.
Yep.
And then they also advance the
Like virus.
how sick are you counter?
How sick are you counting?
What are we going to call that thing?
Call it like viral stages.
Viral what?
Stages.
Oh, there you go. The stages of the virus. And that being said, we also have a virus
Virus.
stage. Doomsday style counter. And yeah, right. See what else do we have? Tool, weapon tokens. Actually, we don't even have to put. I'll just put tokens in parentheses because I mean the feature themselves are,
Yeah.
Not necessarily the physical things that what do players interact with in the game.
Yeah.
We have spear, which is a weapon.
Do we want to do bow and arrow?
I was just gonna add that in there.
If we do, well, I was just thinking like, if we do bow and arrow, net, and a fishing pole, those all have string, so we would need. I mean, unless we say avoid collecting something dealing with string and say they can still just make a bow and arrow and a net with.
You use coconut fiber
Um,
because you could weave it into a rope.
yeah, we could. I just don't want us to spend so much, having so many resources.
I know. Then you end
Yeah.
up with feature creep, and
Yeah,
I'm there. So why don't we?
let's
I'll-
we'll avoid a net and fishing pole. We could still say you can make a bow and arrow with just stone and well. I feel like a spear would really be the only.
Why don't we say a spear and maybe some kind of trap
Yeah.
of some sort? I mean, we can mess with the mechanics of that later. If we want to use it, I'll put maybe, so we know that that's a maybe feature.
Yeah.
Fire was definitely one of the tools we wanted to use.
Yep.
And I mean, under the survival cards, I'm going to start with like,
I'm gonna,
kind of listing wood.
I'm gonna bold that maybe so we don't skip over it.
Good call, man. Wood, water.
We said wood, water, food.
Food.
I think that's all we had was food.
So we got a plant, mushrooms.
Well, I was gonna say the mushrooms were for the cure.
Okay, that's right. Yeah. So
all I have written down are food or wood for fire, deer, crab, fish for food, and fresh water for water.
I just watched
yeah.
a really weird video. I was looking up how you could make, I guess, like string if you're in the wild. You can make it from bark, actually.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Just found that.
Let's see. So our cure we had. What are you doing, Cal?
What was the coconut for? Oh,
I don't know.
the coconut is for the cure. So we have mushroom. Oh no, we didn't add. We were putting the willow. Dwarf willow.
I'll be right back.
Alright. Moss. Nope. Coconut. And seaweed.
It's a really weird cure. Is that all there is for the cure?
That's it. Oh, and then sand for syringe.
Sand for the syringe.
Yep. You gotta melt some sand to make glass for a syringe.
It's getting some complex stuff.
I mean, that stuff might just get taken out. I feel like it's gonna be it's a lot for the players to do, so we might end up just taking it out. But I mean, I think for now, I mean, or we could just say the cure doesn't have to be injected by a syringe. It could actually just be,
Could be ingested.
Yeah,
Could just drink it.
Drink it. So we'll take sand out of there. I feel like that's. So then we'll have to add clay so they can make pottery.
That seems very
Yeah.
We don't have to go that far.
Well, they may have, if they're in the middle of a cabin, or some kind of base, they may have access to like a pot and a pan or a tin cup or something they can use to boil something. Or they could just cut a coconut in half and scrape it out and use it as a bowl.
There you go. Alright, so the features.
I was trying to think of a cover name for a coconut bowl, but I couldn't think of one.
We also have the trader features.
Yep.
So we'll put the trader. Did I spell that right?
There's an A in there.
Okay.
Or an I after the A.
Well, if you don't spell it right, I'll just correct it.
When you spell it without the I and you try to correct it, it puts it as tractor.
Tractor. It did that to me too. I was like, what the crap? Okay, so the trader.
I guess that's the name of our trader. We'll call him John Deere.
John Deere. I like that. Instead of John Doe, John Deere. All right, so the trader, he prevents the innocents from achieving their goals by lying about what he contributes to the overall that will have to be edited at some point.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we want just a real simple thing, what the trader does, that's his main mechanic.
So, what all
'Cause I
do we
thought-
exactly?
Huh? Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Just wondering, like, what all do we need to have done by the end of this week?
I'm making a list of the things that we should have done by the end of this week. If you want, we can discuss those later, or I can just go over them real quick.
Might be good to take a brain break from.
Alright. So far I have start and finish the GDD, which is obligation right there. We need our logo. So I was thinking we have a meeting tonight. We'll have a meeting tomorrow. Another one Thursday and another one Saturday. So
We may want to have one Wednesday too. I mean, as involved as this is,
yeah, we can do that. But I just thought, well, if Justin's not available, and if he's available Wednesday night, then I'd say yes, we'll do one Wednesday. But if not, then we'll do it Thursday. I don't want to have too many meetings and do too much without everyone else.
I agree. Absolutely.
But I'll send an email out and say, this is what needs to be done, by Thursday and Saturday's meetings. We need our logo done, and we need character and like a rough draft of what everything's going to look like, characters, boards, resource cards, all that.
Mhm.
And at least one play test done by Saturday's meeting.
Yep. And if I remember right, Jeffrey, correct me if I'm wrong, but Justin usually made our Wednesday meetings, didn't he?
Did we have a meeting
I
Wednesday?
think so. We didn't have one Wednesday, but
Yeah,
I think he usually made Wednesday ones.
I was talking about last month. He was on my team last month.
All right.
Okay.
But-
No, because we did. No, we did Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday last month
I don't know.
because we used
Exactly.
Monday for our read through everything day.
I know Monday we had one.
Mhm.
It's that, and I know we had one on like Saturday or Sunday.
Mhm.
But I don't know we had one back in between that.
Those are the big things that need to be done. The biggest thing outside of working in on the GDD is one playtest by Saturday's meeting, so that way Saturday we can, if you can do more than one, go for it. That'll be more feedback. But I figured Wednesday. I mean, and it's going to be hard because David and Justin aren't here, so they're not. I mean, they have an idea on what the game's going to be like and how to play through it, but I feel like their feedback won't be as crucial as ours because they're not here now unless they watch the meeting, which I hope they do. That'll help them out a lot. So their feedback will be a lot more constructive.
Mhm.
So.
And the rules and mechanics part, with we're all assistants, but that kind of falls into the mechanics lead, and I'm here, Jeffrey's here, Tyler's here, so that's something that we can definitely get done
Yeah.
before we kind of talk to the art department.
I mean, if you guys want to try to tackle the mechanics tonight, that way it gives more time for playtesting. I mean, if we did them tomorrow night, then David and Justin would have to watch this video and then try to set up a game Wednesday, and Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I think there's plenty of time still, but when we get down to rules and mechanics, we can figure out if we want to do them tonight or tomorrow.
Honestly, I think that may be better suited for its own meeting.
All right, yeah,
So-
that's what I said before.
Since
Oh,
that's
fine.
we could definitely start it, but I think it'll take a meeting and a half at least
Yeah.
to make sure all of our rules make sense, and then the flowcharts will be easy enough to do.
Yeah,
Not worried about those. In-game conditions we've already pretty much defined.
yep,
The main thing that we're still trying to come up with in regards to our in-game conditions are the numbers
yeah,
of what it takes to how many mushrooms you need, because those we have to make sure that if we have these monthly goals, that we're not going to expound all of our resources on our monthly goals and then not have enough to meet that end goal.
Yeah.
Or that might end up being a viable strategy for the trader, though.
I guess that's something we could discuss tomorrow night. I'll make a note of that. That we got to figure out how much the resource cards are worth and how many, monthly goal requirements they need, and same thing with the cure.
Mm-hmm. And then the other thing that we might want to think about doing is what happens to those, like once we put all our monthly goals into the pot and then that's revealed, what happens to those cards? Are they discarded? Do we have to have the players sift through them and put them back in the regions?
I would say they're probably discarded. I mean, if we want to be like realistic, then we'd say, well, like deer, they're going to reproduce, so there'll be more food. But I think just for what we have, we'll say they're discarded. But then that means, I mean, if you do a lot of hunting in the forest, you can deplete that pile rather quickly.
So that's. I want to kind of look at how, and I hate to use them as another example, but I want to know how Dead of Winter deals with that.
Yeah.
Because they have separate regions like we do.
Yeah. And in theirs, they had their resource card, like the food, and then they had the trash, and then, they had gas, but you would think, if you use gas, then the gas is gone, so you would think they only had a limited number of those cards. So yeah, I think that's something I'll look into tomorrow also.
Yeah, we'll do a little research on that, and because that's the main problem I see with our game.
Yeah.
Our potential problem is running out of resources before, and making the game essentially unwinnable.
And we got to think. I mean, we have 100 cards, blank cards to use. And if we want to use more than those hundreds, I think that's fine. But then we got to think, well, the people outside, like the instructor and anyone else that's going to play test this, also has to be able to use those cards. But I guess that's something. I'm going to open that. I mean, the box is open. I'm going to take all the pieces out and set up, do a little just play run of how things might work tonight and tomorrow. So.
I agree. I think that's a good idea. And I'll look through that and then kind of try and kind of conceptualize a little bit more about what those goals could be.
Yeah, and this is the point where we're going to decide. Even if half these resource cards are we going to even have them, or are they a no or are they a go? That kind of thing. Or we might have to have less resource cards but with higher values on them.
Yeah.
So.
And maybe have other ways to get those cards based on the discard pile.
Yeah.
Okay. So. All right, so our game components, and we'll kind of, because the feature set, the trader feature will be determined on what we figure for those goals.
Yeah.
Because once we know the player goals, how they're going to achieve them, we can better think of ways to sabotage those.
So, the game components, should we hold off on this? Because we don't exactly know the qualities of... I mean, we know there's going to be 4 characters, or player standees.
Let's just put in what we know.
Yeah. Right.
And then we can always add in later.
So say... we got... bullet point these. We got a board, a game board, one game board. 4 character standees. Question mark. Survival. Cards. Question mark. Gear cards.
I'm going to add class cards to our features.
Alright.
those would be like the engineer, the hunter, that kind of thing.
So, when it comes to like getting like, so are there like set, like I guess like characters that you'll play as within the game?
Yeah.
So then those will be represented by cards as well.
I think so. Yeah, we'll have 4 characters. They'll be face down. You shuffle them. Each person picks one, and it'll say, I don't know if we'll go as far as to having like what the character looks like, but we'll have their name and their special abilities, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then as far as the trader card goes, that's where these kind of class cards would come into play.
Yeah.
But these class cards would remain secret.
Yeah.
And the players, and that would be a good idea too, is the players could say, on these class cards, this player could be like, I'm a hunter, and then the trader card, obviously would have the trader on it.
Yeah.
And his goal, but he should also have some other kind of a chameleon ability,
mm-hmm.
or the player can choose. It's like a wild card.
Yeah, we'll figure that.
Because that way, you don't know. Like if somebody says, "Hey, I'm an engineer," and the other person says, "Well, I'm an engineer too," you don't really know who's lying at that point.
Well, I think the way, like if you had the 4 cards and each one had their own ability, when everyone, you'll draw your character card and decide who that is. But then let's say, if you're gonna have a trader card, you would need 4 more cards. I guess like 1 red card and 3 white cards, and you shuffle them up and hand them out, and whoever has the trader.
That's good, yeah, because you could just have that completely separate. And
yeah,
you wouldn't have
so
to,
say,
I like that.
Put a note here. 3 white cards.
Because my other question was, how do you hide that whenever you're?
Yeah.
So we still have the 4 classes, and then we have the trader mechanic that's decided by these other cards. So what were our 4 classes? It was engineer, hunter, what else?
I had a hunter, herbalist, fisherman, and an engineer.
That's right. Herbalist. So the herbalist is pretty much going to be everybody's best friend.
Yeah. He's going to... his goal will probably be mostly gathering plants. Or try to gather plants.
He'll be the guy who gets sabotaged a lot.
Yeah. Okay, engineer, hunter, herbalist, and fisherman was the other one, right?
Yep.
Oh. And if I play this, I want to be the fisherman.
Yeah. That's the overall goal. And this is, I'm just going to put in parentheses, this is chosen at the start of the game.
At the start.
Yeah.
Alright, we said...
Card pull.
So...
Tokens were weapons and tools. Alright, so game components, I have 1 game board, 4 character standees, 1 trader card, and then in parentheses I put 3 white cards and 1 red card. Question mark survival resource cards, question mark cure cards, question mark symptom cards. We have dice, but question mark on that. We don't know exactly how many we're going to need. 12 monthly gold cards. We don't know how many weapon token cards we want. Rule book.
We need the symptom stages, but that'll also be part of the board.
Okay.
And so will the regions. The regions will also be part of the board.
Alright, I'll put those in parentheses up on the board.
Okay. Cool. Not that we're done by any means, but I'm just kind of going back in my head, just kind of what we've done tonight, and I think that we have a much stronger foundation than we did last week, so that is awesome.
It's also nice to have it all written down too.
Yeah.
I mean, last time it was kind of like we had it written down, but it was meant to be like kind of like a base. But this time we're kind of go more in depth on what we're writing down,
Yeah.
Mhm.
which kind of helps.
So tomorrow, I guess we'll probably spend the whole meeting discussing all the mechanics.
Mhm.
You know, this is. I mean, and I think we'll go back at some point when we have the other tweener and write more into the story. Because
Yeah.
so that's got to be at least half a page. But I feel like this mechanic part is going to be.
Well, it has to be at most half a page.
Yeah. And it's got to be a 15 to 25 page document. We're only on 11
It has to be
pages.
15 page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Minimum.
Well, the rules
minimum.
and mechanics section he said this is the longest part of your document.
Yep.
Was the rules and mechanics. So that's why I was like, it'd probably be good to have that on one meeting,
Yeah.
just by itself. And I think we'll hit that easy with all the the regions and the things that we're doing. It won't be hard to hit that
Yeah.
count at all.
And I'm thinking when we're doing the mechanics, one of us, we'll all start discussing mechanics, but one of us will also start working on a flow chart when we're discussing the mechanics.
Mhm.
I mean, the flow chart shouldn't be, that big or that long.
But we're supposed to have separate flowcharts, if I remember his email right. Like we have a setup flowchart, and then we would have like a resource gathering flowchart, and each of those has a reference or that the circle that goes back into another flowchart.
Yeah.
But he said he didn't want one massive one. He wanted chunks.
Yeah. He said, do a flowchart, do another for each set or step within your game, movement and combat, for example. Link all these smaller flowcharts using connectors that refer to another chart. So we'll have, obviously the setup. Then we'll have rolling or turn phases, collecting, stuff like that. But we'll look into that tomorrow.
Ooh, my Mac is about to die. Hang on, let me go grab my charger.
Oh, is the flow chart kind of like what we had to do with that other class I made a game?
Yeah.
Yep.
I started. If you go to there should be a file for that Michael set up, and I went and I put in the first three shapes for the setup, and we have to remember the parallel or slanted square is player actions and their input. So them rolling a dice, them collecting a card, stuff like that. We got to remember those go in that kind of thing, shape.
I forgot there's like specific shapes for everything.
Yeah, I think the circle was just like the start, any end when a turn ends, or when the game ends, and then everything else was in like a square.
So what does he mean by like separate chunks?
So like, he doesn't want us to put everything onto one. Like let me open the thing. Like I have the start, and then that goes to setup, and then that goes to I think like players drawing their character cards. So
It's
then,
like character select.
yeah, so then that would probably go to another slanted thing, which would probably be characters. We got to figure out how they're also going to decide who goes first, which would probably be rolling a dice, and then
The sickest person goes first. The last person that was sick.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then it would probably go, you'd keep going until you got to the point where it was like player enters region, and then from there you would probably make another flow chart on what happens when they're in that region, like roll to move spaces. And
Is there an animal? Yes or no?
Yeah.
If that happens.
And if there is, then you'll have like collect resource card.
So we're pretty much just gonna hit sections of this, and then we're gonna have like we're gonna have like another flow chart that describes that section. Pretty much.
Yeah. And that'll make it a lot easier to map out and see if a lot of these mechanics work. Because if we have a break in the flow chart where it does, we know that, hey, we done messed something up.
Something's missing here.
Something's not right here.
So
They should all flow in together.
Our flow chart isn't much of a flow chart. It doesn't flow. It's just a chart.
Just a chart. So basically, what we're just to clarify my thinking. Tomorrow we're going to start looking at the rules and mechanics.
Yep.
We're going to first define the winning condition for our innocence.
Yep.
And then probably work backwards from there.
Yeah, I think we really can't do anything until we decide what the winning condition is.
Yeah. And that will. Well, we know what the condition is. It's finish building this cure and survive all the symptoms. It's how we do that that we will define, and then Tyler and I will do some research regarding the resource card discard thing from Dead of Winter and maybe another game as well.
If you want me to like research anything or do something,
Yeah, absolutely. If you wanted to also do some research on that too,
Mhm.
The more input we have, the more it should be easier to do it. I'm also going to start breaking everything down in the box and trying to get a general setup on how things will work and start thinking about how the regions are going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And start figuring out the number of cards we're going to need.
Mm-hmm.
How we're
And
gonna?
then
You can go ahead.
I was going to say the other thing we have to think about is how do we denote the season change.
Yeah,
And
I was thinking like one of those flicking spin dials.
just a random season every month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then I was like, well, you flick it, and say the first month you got winter. I mean, we're doing what, 3 months per season. Would you flick it again? Because I wonder if we got winter again. But then I was like, well, we'll have. I guess we could have the 4 cards, and you flip one, and whatever it is, that's what it is, and then every 3 months you take that out, put the other one in. I mean, try to stay in the cycle of the season.
Why don't we go and look up too, like what seasons are pertinent to islands,
Yeah.
and kind of bring some info back with that. Because once we know, like most islands have this season, because we may even, instead of using seasons, we could also just draw like a weather condition.
Yeah,
That's what I was thinking.
like,
like
a hurricane.
Hurricane, the Sharkicane. That could be the special. If you have to roll to figure out how bad this is, and if you roll a 1, it's a Sharkicane.
Yeah.
Insta death for everybody.
Insta death. Trader automatically wins.
Trader out. No, they all die. Everybody dead.
So are we all right with what we've accomplished so far?
I think we've gotten a better foundation of what we're looking for. I think another meeting we'll get a really good foundation.
Yeah.
About what we're looking.
Up on the cover page where it said date last revised, I'm just gonna put today's date.
Yeah. Because we haven't even finished version
No.
1 yet, and then table of contents will be the last thing that we do. Design history.
All right.
Then we'll look into different things, because you could have, like, I know in a lot of Caribbean islands they have pop up like tropical storms that could hinder movement for
Yeah.
and we could say that the storm lasted all month. On our goal cards or our crisis cards, whatever we want to call them.
Some crazy rain, man.
Yeah. Hey, man.
Oh,
Sometimes it happens.
I think one time when I lived in Lake of the Ozarks, I think it had rain for almost a whole week.
Dude, we had rain down here for, like, I think about a week straight, 2 weeks ago. It was freaking nuts.
It's
The
crazy.
James River was like flooding. It was bad. How are you doing, by the way? I know there's been kind of a, but you're in Kansas City, not St. Louis.
Yeah.
St. Louis has been a little active this evening.
Weather-wise,
No, just people being stupid.
I had some bad weather this morning. My power went out for a while.
Oh no.
It's kind of it's kind of awkward because I was like, it's just like sitting in like a lit room, where it's like pitch black whenever the lights go off. And then,
Yeah,
like
it's like
lights just go off, it's just pitch black in there. I'm like, well, this is awkward.
And I should probably clarify, since this is on YouTube, when I say people being stupid, I mean the people that are breaking and looting stuff for no reason. There was like a state of emergency declared for Ferguson earlier, and people have every right to be mad, but don't break other people's stuff. There's no reason to loot a business.
No. It's crazy. Well, if we think we're good, before we go, Michael, tell us more about that party you had and how people are interested in the games.
Oh yeah, man.
I'd love to hear about it more.
It was two interesting things happened at the cast party. First, Heather's always tells him, hey, she's really proud of me for doing pursuing my dream, doing game design, this kind of stuff. And so people were asking me, hey, what are you doing this month? And I said, well, this month we're working on analog games. And the first thing people said, they're like, well, didn't you go for like video game design?
Yeah.
Well, the thing about it is good design is good design regardless of medium, and then if it'll work on the tabletop, it'll work in the computer.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay. And I started telling them about our treatment, about the idea of having a trader and gathering resources and have people working together, but this guy kind of working in the shadows to do something else. And it was weird. Like I was half expecting. You ever feel like you have to apologize for your design?
Yeah.
When you're talking about, because I kind of felt that in my head, but when I looked around, everyone's just like, they're just hanging on what I'm saying, and they're asking me questions about. I'm like, well, we're thinking about going this. We just did the concept document, turned that in today, and everyone's like, that is really, really cool. Can I play that when it's done? And I was like, wow, people actually care about what we're doing. And then the other thing that happened, and this is what truly blew me away, is I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I feel like I even have to apologize for my field of study.
Yeah.
And even though we're all here for a reason. We love designing games, and that's what we need to be doing. But I, from my parents, when I was younger, games were always a frivolous pastime. They didn't really matter.
Yeah.
This, that, and the other. And so that was kind of what I grew up in. But one of the cast members, his son, who's I think in 7th grade this year, that's what he wants to do, is be a game designer. So his dad pulls me aside and says, hey, I brought my son. I'd really like you to talk to him about what you're studying, and would it be okay if he asks you some questions? And I'm like, you want my opinion? I'm just a student. I didn't say that, but I was talking, and he asked a bunch of stuff about Full Sail and asked about kind of our design philosophy, and I told him kind of what I thought. But the thing that was weird is this guy's dad is kind of my dad's age, maybe a little bit younger, and he is so supportive for this guy. And he's asking me, well, Mike, what books do you recommend that I get for him? What do you recommend he start doing now so he can be a game designer and get ready for college? And I'm sitting there, I'm like, and in my head, I'm replaying over and over. This guy thinks I'm an expert. But he just and the kid obviously was very, very interested and wants to he really wants to be a designer. But what floored me was how supportive that this dad was, and that he came to me and actually took me seriously.
Yeah.
And it was a really cool little moment.
That's awesome. Like I said in the email, I mean, hearing stuff like that, and like when I went to GameStop, and this was before we actually started discussing or finished our concept, and I was talking to the guy because he saw my email was Full Sail, and he's like, are you studying games now? I was like, or games, or I was like, yeah. He's like, that's awesome. I was like, yeah, we're going to be making a game this month, and he was just like, dude, when you finish that, bring that in, and we'll set it up and we'll play it. And I was like, are you serious? I mean, we don't have anything down, but if you're that confident that we're going to make a kick-ass game, then yeah.
Yeah. Well, we are going to make a kick-ass
So-
game,
I mean, that's pretty cool. And then I told my girlfriend, I was like, you know what? When we finish this, I'm calling Will Wheaton, get this game on, on tabletop.
We're gonna have a tabletop. Be good to go. But yeah, absolutely, and it's kind of surreal when you have those moments because you're
Yeah.
like, I'm an actual game designer now.
Yeah, I mean,
And-
when I talk to people and say I'm going to school, and they're like, oh, well, what are you going? I'm like, game design. And they're like, oh, okay. I'm like, I mean, it's a good. I love it. I want to study it more and learn more and do the best I can being a game designer. But I think some people don't realize that it's not what it used to be,
Mm-hmm.
where you can have one person who, I mean, they didn't. I'm sure they didn't have colleges teaching game design back then. So everyone's like, isn't it? Don't you feel like it's a waste of time or a waste of money, or is it really a guaranteed job? And I'm like, well, I mean, there's a lot of people, a lot of great people and talented and creative people going for this kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's hard to get into, but it all depends on how bad you want it. And if I can't get into, I mean, my plan isn't to start going into like a AAA company. But even if I don't get into anything, at least I learned how to make something and I can do it myself. That's all that matters to me.
Mhm.
So,
Well, yeah, and the other thing people don't realize is there is a huge demand for game designers now
Yeah.
in like the serious games field. So even if you can't get a job in entertainment, this guy that I was talking to last night, his name's Adam. He was saying, one of his one of the guys that works for him, his son got a degree in game design and is now working developing serious games for the military,
yeah.
and he's making bank.
I mean,
But-
just because it's video game design doesn't mean it's game design. It's could be analog games, could be digital. It doesn't have to be like the next Call of Duty or Halo. It could be any kind of simulation game. I mean, it's anything. I think there's endless opportunities with this kind of degree.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And my Heather was talking to me. He said, if you got a job doing this for the military, would you take it? And I was like, yeah. But it doesn't have to be what I do for the rest of my life. Because the cool thing about the military and doing contracting work for them
Yeah,
is, unlike a lot of AAA studios where any kind of IP that you come up with they own.
yeah.
Military, you're designing training sims.
Mhm.
So if you want to do stuff on your own,
Go for it.
it's gravy. There's no weird legal binding. So, and especially with education nowadays too. And not just military education, but regular, K through 12.
Yeah.
They're all figuring out, games are a great way to teach
Mm, yeah.
if they're done right. So,
I mean, that's the world today. Some games.
they're not just a pastime for people to sit in their mom's basement and
No.
play anymore. So it's really cool because it kind of, you should always love what you do, but sometimes in our field we get treated like underwater basket weaving
Yeah.
degrees.
And a lot
And
of
it's
the
really-
things I get is people discuss about how violence or video games is the cause for violence.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, our intention is not to go out and make a game that's teaching someone how to go rob a store and shoot up a school. So
Well-
there's a lot of criticism and blame towards game designers now and us in the future. But I'm like, that's not a reason why I'm going to stop, because that's not the reason we're doing it.
Yeah, that's not what the game's about. It's about, regardless of the theme, it's about player interaction, figuring out problems, system thinking. And I had an older gentleman talk to me one time about violence in video games, and he's like, video games are the cause of all these mass shootings and this, that, and the other. And I was like,
Yeah.
the thing about it is, and my brother's autistic. He's nonverbal, and he's got some severe mental illnesses. But, you know, that's the main problem is mental illness. These people that are gravitating towards video games, and that's why they play, is just to kill people.
Mm-hmm.
If video games didn't exist, they would find a separate medium.
Mm-hmm.
Like Columbine, like, oh, they played Doom, but they watched a whole lot more of the first Matrix than they did playing Doom.
Yeah.
And even prior, before digital games existed, it was literature. People would read a pamphlet or a book and get fixated on an idea, and they would commit atrocities. I mean, especially in Europe. I always hate to single out, the Middle East, because there's a lot of good people that are Middle Eastern, and we all kind of tend to lump them into one, bad thing. But, a lot of the atrocities that happened, before the 80s and, earlier, was all due to the written word and people fixating on these stories that were so over embellished that they're like, I want to achieve that glory and kill that many people. So it's not an issue that is solely our medium. It kind of it encompasses a wider conversation that, especially in America, we don't want to have.
Yeah.
So now it's Jeffrey's turn for his inspiring thoughts to close the meeting out.
I don't have very inspiring thoughts. I went through most of my life wanting to be a game designer and being told I would never be able to.
Well,
you're proving them wrong now, man. Yeah.
I don't get much response now. If I tell people I'm doing it, they just kind of...
Well, next time you see them, tell them to go on YouTube and search up tabletop.
Or search, when you see creative directors that are making $92,000 plus stock options plus, all this other kind of thing. And, you just, the main thing is just don't be afraid to talk about what you do and use these assignments we've done in classes where, you talked about leading change in the industry or, what the games community is trying to do, or just watch a bunch of extra credits. And you'll be able to speak on games so much better.
I think a lot of the problem with it is like people who didn't take the chance to go to school to learn and do something they love and they want to do. When you sit down and talk to them and they say, "What are you going to school for?" and you say, "Game design," and they're like, "Well, good luck with that." I mean, to me, it feels like they're upset or jealous that each day they got to get up and they're like, oh, now I got to go to work, do this, do that. But for us, it's like, get up.
We get to go to work.
Yeah.
And it's awesome.
Just these meetings, all day I'm sitting there thinking like, and the game, I'm like, I can't wait to come into the meeting and discuss this and discuss that and figure this out and figure that out and do this and do that. And when I was working these jobs I had, like I've done a lot of distribution centers. I mean, it's not bad work, but every day I'm like, man, I got to go in there and do this. And I just want to get out of here. So it's.
Well, yeah, we found something that we love to do, and I look forward to I even look forward to the meetings last month. Every night I'm like, man, because you get to get in with creative people and do something together. It's awesome. And a lot of people really are just jealous because they're like, man, I wish I could do something that I want to do, but I'm so locked into this mindset of I'll never be able to do this. I'll never, and I experienced that. I was like, I'll never be a game designer. I'm just going to go for video production because it's easy.
Yeah.
And I did, and it sucked.
And
it works for some people.
That's what I was
awesome.
like when I was working distribution. I was like, I can't be a game designer. I'm just going to do this for my life. But at one point, I was just like, you know what? I don't want to do this. I would kill myself if I had to continue doing this. I mean, I see how miserable everyone else is doing this. I was like, I got to do something that I want to do and I would love to do, and here it is. I'm not the best at it. I don't think I'll ever be the best at it, but I'm going to go in and give it all I got and enjoy it.
Well, yeah, and you keep doing better and better, learning. And somebody told me one time with game design, he's like, the first things that you make, you're going to make something crappy. You can make a bunch of good stuff, but And, you know, I used to be really afraid of screwing up, and, you know, I wanted to do everything perfect. And I finally got to the point where I didn't feel like not that I wasn't learning anything, but I was stressing myself out
Yeah.
too much. And whether if I would just let myself not like completely fail, but
Yeah.
just take a chance on like that 80% solution,
I mean,
I
like,
would learn more.
when I play a game now and I get aggravated with something in it, like, I don't want to, shoot down Destiny here, but there's a lot of stuff in Destiny that I get annoyed with.
Hmm.
When I start getting aggravated and feel like I just want to break the game or something, I'm like, well, what about all the hard work and time that the creators and all that put into this game?
Yeah.
I'm going to be one of those people, and someone's going to be doing that to my game. Saying all this bad crap about it, but I shouldn't take that as an insult. That should just be something to motivate me to do better next time. But I should love what I create, no matter how crappy everyone else thinks it is.
Hmm. And the other way to look at it too is people that have, you know, they obviously care that much to get in contact, and, you know, they care about the medium so much that they kind of spout off, and that's in a way kind of a good thing.
Yeah.
Because they care about, because otherwise if they didn't care about your game, they'd be like, well, this sucks, I'll throw it in the trash. But they're like, man, this sucks, if you can do this to make it better. And
then they actually care and they want it to be better. So
It's kind of what I really like. It's like, even if like you have like an idea, it's like, even if it may have like be bad or have its flaws, it's always like something good that can come out of it.
Yeah.
'Cause it's just,
we experienced that tonight.
yeah. It's like any idea is like a good idea. It's just, I guess, like the way it's implemented that really makes it, like, I guess, good. So I mean, you can have plenty of good ideas. It just may not be right for that game, and maybe use them to. It could be used for something else.
Just file it away, use it for something, like you said, use it for something else. Yeah, it's there's when I was working for Primerica way back when, one of the things they told us, because a lot of people were like, oh, you're selling insurance, and so, and it was good products, you know, but like don't listen to somebody's career advice if they're not where you want to be.
Yeah.
You know, because there's no reason. You know, I love my family, but some of them were like, don't you think you should get a accounting degree, or an MBA or something? And then I see them going to work and hating their job every day.
Yeah, that's like what my dad was like. I mean, at first when I started school, he was like, "Well, don't you know you're just going to owe a lot of money in the end, and it's not worth it? You should do this instead." Like I had, distribution jobs and it pays good money. He's like, well, you should stick with that because you got good benefits and you got good pay. And I was like, yeah, but I don't want to get up every day and go do something I hate, because then, that just makes my life crappier for the rest of the time I'm here. So, for him, he didn't have the opportunity to go to school. So,
yeah.
I've been in 2 years in school for 2.5 years, so he's a little more supportive.
Yeah, I took game development because, well, I mean, I like programming. Programming is like enjoyable. I like messing with that kind of stuff. But the only reason I took it was because my family was like, well, game development pays more. And I was like, it's fine, whatever. Because they harassed me about it, and I just eventually just went in for it, and I was like, and then I ended up not being very good at it, and I was like, you know what? I was like, forget this. I'm just gonna do whatever I want. And then I switched over to game design. And
and it takes some time to figure that out. Like, I was studying game art, in another school, and I did a year there, and I was like, you know what? I don't feel like the art side of it is, calling me. So then that's when I was like, I want to get into more of designing it, and here I am.
So, as designers, we... Go ahead, Jeffrey.
You can go ahead.
No. But
Mine's not that like. It's not that.
It's important.
It's
Everything
important.
is
It's-
important.
Yeah,
It's
Stuff
like
like
it's
seriously.
literally like 5 words, so it's okay.
Well, as producer Jeffrey, I demand you to go.
as assistant producer, I second the demand.
Well, I kind of forgot what I was gonna say now, so.
Oh no.
I demand you to remember.
I do.
I was gonna say, like us, as designers, we want to make our own games, not necessarily make other people's games. Because
Yeah.
in game art and programming, that you get a document from the designer, and then you create their vision.
Yeah.
You know.
All right. Well, I'm gonna probably get off here and send out the email to the instructor about the asymmetrical and symmetrical section,
Mm-hmm.
and send an email to. I mean, it'll be to you too, also, but to Justin and David, telling them about this meeting and what needs to be done by. I don't. Well, I mean, like the play test should be done by Thursday and Saturday. So David should have his done before Saturday's meeting, and Jeffrey or Justin should have his done before Thursday. Thursday. And we should have some kind of logo idea, if not a logo, before Thursday's meeting ends.
Yep.
So we'll work on that. Everyone can just come up with an ideas, and I guess we can bring them in Thursday, or tomorrow, whichever.
Sounds good.
So
I'm gonna come up with some ridiculous one that has a shark in it.
you know, I was thinking about that. We got Oceanaut, so I was thinking like maybe get like waves or some kind of ocean in there and put like a shark at the bottom.
Or Sharky Cane, like in the very bottom corner.
Yeah, anything. I think so. Whatever we got, we'll figure it out.
Sometimes, like when it comes to logos, I just get like way too detailed with it.
Yeah.
Just make sure if you get way too detailed, make it vector art so it scales nice.
Yep. So.
Yep.
But if that's it, then we'll call this a meeting and.
Yep. Don't forget about the peer reviews that are due tomorrow.
Yep. I was gonna send that out in email too. Make sure David and Justin had that done.
Yep. I'm finishing mine up right now.
I have to answer the questions at the very bottom.
Yep.
That's about
It's
it.
hard because I'm like, man, my team sucks so much.
Yeah, when I was doing mine, I was like,
I was like 0 isn't a low enough number.
You zeros, yeah. Can I do
think-
-1?
I did. I think I did all 4s and 5s. I mean, it's hard for me to say like a 3 or a 2 or a 1.
But we gel together, like our entire team.
Yeah, I mean, even
Last-
though Justin and David weren't here to the other 2 meetings, the times that they here, the meetings they were in here, they contributed, they gave ideas and stuff like that. So I mean, there's nothing negative that we experienced. They did their charter on time, so
It's Team Awesome 2.0, Jeffrey.
Version 2.
Version 2.
so. All right. Well, if we're all good, then we'll call this a meeting. 2.5. What do I got? 2 hours and 40 minutes on the call. It's about,
That's what I got too.
I think that's from the time when Jeffrey came in and started the call back up. But
I messed up the time.
that's good enough.
Yep.
So if we're all good, gentlemen, then we will see each other again tomorrow night.
Sounds good. Just a reminder, I will be probably about 45 minutes late.
All right. So expect you around 9. So it'll be Jeffrey and I.
Yep.
Okay. I'll make the note. Mike.
As far as I know, I shouldn't be late.
Well,
I've got things from 7 to 8 in Springfield, which is like 20 minutes away. So as soon as I get back, I'll hop on Skype.
okay. That's no problem. Jeffrey and I, we'll just go through the document and I guess see if there's anything that needs to be changed around before you come in. and or start discussing some of the mechanics.
Sounds good.
So, alrighty, gentlemen, have a good night and see you tomorrow.
Adios.
See you.